So Pete Prisco's power rankings come out every Tuesday. He hadn't had a lot of shuffles at the top this season. This week there was a lot.
Yes. Okay, we're going to get to those two teams, the 49ers and the Eagles, here in just a second. The headline, though, for Pete's article, which, by the way, you can find on CBSSports.com, with no more undefeated teams, is anybody that good? He's going to answer that here in a second. All right, biggest risers, biggest fallers. I'm going to start with that. Jets, the biggest risers, up 10 spots to number 15. Very impressed with their performance without Aaron Rodgers after they came up big, beating the Eagles. Bucks, the biggest faller, down 8 spots to number 14. So last week, the 49ers were the #1 team, followed by the Eagles, then the Chiefs. Well, with San Fran and Philly both losing, the Chiefs back up to the top where they were to begin the season, and the Dolphins sitting right behind them. All right, it is time to dive into Pete Prisco's power rankings.
You do this every year, Pete. You say, like, 5 weeks into the season, he's like, I don't know if anybody's any good.
Well, nobody is any good.
What do you mean?
You said that good.
He said he doesn't know if anybody's good.
That
period.
Good. Can I say this, though?
Go ahead.
Everybody
to his point, the level of offensive play is not where it needs to be at this point in time. It's been a trend, too. You look at the offensive EPAs, in particular in the red zone, it's been going down for the past 4 years. Teams are struggling to throw the football in the red zone. We're struggling to see the consistent high level of quarterback play. I don't know what you would attribute it to. I mean, you could make it the case that, like, there's a lot of future Hall of Famers who now aren't in this league anymore at quarterback, but there's got to be something else you point to. You've seen this league forever.
Well, here's what I point to. The offensive line play in the league is awful.
That's the start.
I mean, the offensive line play is so bad. The defensive linemen are so fast and athletic, you compound the problem. Everybody gets sped up, and the quarterback play becomes bad. It's a combination of all that. You don't block, you don't tackle, you don't hit in training camp. Of course the offensive line play is going to be bad.
The offensive line play is portion, but as far as quarterback play goes as well, I also think you're looking at a jump from the college to the NFL level where the systems they're trying to implement, you can't run the RPO systems at the NFL level. You just can't. You can only have ineligibles a yard downfield. In college, it's 3 yards, which seems like an eternity to be able to hold on to the football and read the defense. And so I think quarterbacks are having a lot harder time trying to implement some of the concepts that you're doing at the NFL level consistently enough and building off of that. And to your point, you're going to talk about the offensive line. You don't have the quarterback score anymore. We used to go 3 weeks ahead of everyone else. You drop back, you work on the concepts, you watch film. You were ahead of the entire offense, what everyone else reported in the offseason. That's not the case anymore.
I think, Pete, it brings you joy every week to just watch bad offensive line. So that now I feel like that's what you're looking for on a Sunday. Hold on, we're going to get to your Saturday, by the way. We're going to get to your power rankings. Hey, let's start with the Dolphins here, up to #2 on your power rankings.
Wow.
You talked about in your article they regrouped in a big way, but Eagles this week, they have the Chiefs in 2 weeks. How much are we going to learn about this Dolphins team coming up?
We'll know a lot more about them. When you look at who they've beat, I mean, look at the last 2 weeks. Giants, Carolina. I mean, the records of the teams that they've beaten is awful. So now they go to Philly. Philly's a wounded animal. They come off a loss. That's going to be a tough game. Then they have Kansas City in a couple weeks at Germany. So this is a proving ground game, a couple weeks for Tua and the gang. He's been great. Don't get me wrong. He's been fantastic. But remember, he got off to that great start. Everybody annoyed him. He went to Buffalo, and they had a bad game. Now we'll see when he goes out on the road again.
Okay, a couple things. You mentioned the schedule. You can only play who's in your schedule. This is the NFL.
Okay, Coach.
Okay. How many teams have San Francisco and Philly beat with winning records?
True.
Yeah. Go look at their 5-1 record and dissect that. My question to you is, how big of a gap is there from #1 to #2 between Kansas City to Miami?
Gap.
And you have 5 teams sitting there at 5-1. So I'm kind of curious where they all stand with one another.
Gap. There's a gap there. Kansas
City's by far and away the best team.
Best team.
Okay.
If they played anybody else in well, not to peak.
You act like they've been there a while. You had San Francisco and Philly.
Well, San Francisco was the best team. They lost.
Okay.
They lost. You moved down.
They got the same record as Kansas City.
That's why I moved down. By the way, I know you only play the schedule 1 game at a time, 1 play at a time. Don't look ahead. I get it, Coach. I understand.
Coach talk.
Yeah.
Dolphins and Chiefs play each other in just a few weeks. All these teams 5-1. The top NFC team, the Detroit Lions, at #3. Pete, they've won their last 4 games by 14+. Is it possible that we're still sleeping on them a little bit?
Yes, a little bit. And we didn't think that, at least I didn't think the defense would be this good. They've taken major strides on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, watching them play, Tampa came in hot on offense, and Baker Mayfield was bad the other day, and that defense did that to him. Now you get Jamison Williams on the offensive side of the ball to give him the deep speed that they didn't have, and he made a big play against Tampa, scored that touchdown on a long throw. I think this team is a complete team. They're good on both lines. They can get after the quarterback. They can push people around with the offensive line. Yeah, the Lions are for real. I had to see them to believe it and learn how to win, but they've learned how to win. They're good.
There's no doubt. No one's questioning that. I think whether or not they should be placed above San Francisco and Philadelphia is more the question here. I'd probably put them at 5, and I'd still give San Francisco and Philly kind of the nod in that order. The one thing I would say they have going for them now is Jared Goff. If you look at the quarterback play, for the last 17 games he started for the Lions, he's 13-4. He's completing nearly 70% of his passes, 29 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, and he's thrown for over 4,400 yards. Jared Goff is playing at an extremely high level. We don't give him enough credit for how well he's doing. And I'll ask you this. If those are the top 3 teams in the NFC based on your power rankings between San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Detroit, who's the best quarterback of the 3 teams?
Oh, right now Jared Goff's playing the best. He's definitely playing the best because Hurts isn't playing that well, and Purdy might have came back to reality the other day. So
he's not Joe Montana?
No, he wasn't Joe Montana.
I just saw Joe Montana this weekend, by the way. He also told me that, hey, I'm Joe Montana. I was like, yeah, I know. No one else is.
Every week it's a name drop with him.
I'm just saying, I just saw the guy. So everyone's just trying to anoint someone else as Joe Montana, and we were like,
I saw the president, I hung out with the president, and there'll be another name drop.
Congratulations to the Fighting Irish, by the way.
Yes.
Big win. All right, Lions, 1 of 5 one-loss teams. There are 8 teams with 2 losses. Out of your power rankings, out of all those 2-loss teams, you have the Cowboys as the highest ranked. They come off that win over the Chargers last night. The video we show you when we label our video that we're going to show you, it's Cowboys good, but there were a lot of mistakes in that game, Pete.
Yeah, and in fact, when you watch the game, it was so hard to watch. The whole thing was disjointed on both sides of the ball. Mistakes, penalties, too many men on the field, downfield on plays. It was an awful game to watch. But the Cowboys...
Not if you're that Chargers female fan. I mean, she was having the time of her life.
Who was that? That was
She's
just a fan?
She's supposedly a big fan that has those
Season
boxes.
ticket holder.
Yeah, for years. But if they go there and win that game, that's an impressive victory for them. You're coming off a terrible loss to the 49ers against a Chargers team that's supposed to be good. Now, we always say they're good, and they win that game. That's a big win for them.
It was a big win for Dak Prescott. I think for him to rebound, for him really to carry this team, he led the team in rushing. He made plays when he had to, made enough. We tend to forget, in the second half, they only had 4 possessions, all right? They went 3 and out. They had an 8-play drive for a touchdown. I think it was like a 14-play drive, something like that, for a field goal. And then they ran out the clock. Like, that was it. So it was a really interesting game when you go back and look at it and kind of dissect some of the stats. But this is a good win for Dallas. I'm not sure, where this puts them, because I think if you're looking at this tier of teams right now, there's San Francisco, Philly, Detroit. Then I think you're probably looking at that next tier, and Dallas is a part of that group.
That's where I put them.
We could say that based on a record, but that's how you had them slated out. Ultimately, I almost feel like Dallas is getting to the point where they're kind of like Baltimore. They're going to be a playoff team. We know that. It's what can they do when they get to the playoffs? Can they get past San Francisco? Kind of has their number at this point. And we say that about Baltimore. They're going to be a playoff team. It's just what do they do once they get into the playoffs?
And you mentioned those 4-2 teams. Buffalo didn't look very good the other night, so it's hard to make a case for them being better. Jacksonville looked great. You could probably move them up, but maybe that's something I consider moving them ahead of them. But I give Dallas a lot of credit for winning that game. It was a tough situation to do it in, and they found a way to do it. You're making faces. They didn't look great, but they found the game. They won the game.
It was, like you said, it was a horrible game to watch.
I think we learned more about the Chargers and maybe the direction of where they're going right now, more so than we did about the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, they might have a new coach next year. That direction.
Even Barry and Staley for a while.
What is he doing?
I think he's trying to grow the beard, thinking like we forget that he was
from everybody. He goes for it. It's okay to kick field goals, and you know what they'll say? They'll say, well, he didn't kick the field goal, but then they got the ball back and they went and kicked the field goal the next possession. You can't do that. Kick the field goal.
What the hell, when Danny Cannell comes in here, he's falling all over chairs over there.
Amazing.
He just stumbled into the printer, making all kinds of noise. Wait your turn. We got college coming up next. Let's move to the 3-loss teams. Pete's highest 3-loss team, number 11, Cincinnati Bengals. After that horrible start, they win a couple games in a row, and they go into the bye week feeling okay about themselves.
They still have a lot of work left, all right? But you'd have to admit they're the scariest team of all the 3-loss teams right now in the NFL. They're the scariest team in the sense of, as Joe Burrow continues to get more healthy, as we continue to see the offense start to flourish, the defense has been spotty, but they're starting to pick it up too. This is the team to look out for. And so I'm kind of saying my Super Bowl winning team, is still alive. All right, the Bengals are still alive in the hunt for
You're
offense.
like Pete last year. Every time he buried the Packers and then pulled them back out, and buried the Packers and pulled them back out.
They are still
it's
alive.
True.
But
It's
you know
true.
what else is still
People
alive?
pick and win a Super Bowl.
You know what else is still alive? 1 in 10. It's still alive. I mean, I didn't pick them this year, but you're right. They're starting to feel like the Bengals again.
Who did you pick?
The 49ers in Jacksonville.
Okay.
Which Jacksonville's playing good football.
Did you have Jacksonville winning it?
No, I had the 49ers winning.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I did. I promise you I had the 49ers winning. But Brady, they're starting to feel like the Bengals again.
Right.
And, you know, you talk about this being a passer and pass rusher league. Their 2 edge players have the second most sacks of any edge group in the league. That's impressive. And they can get after the quarterbacks. Hendrickson's playing really well.
We tend to forget, too, they lost some secondary pieces. They've had to adjust defensively. I think they're starting to now adjust. I think the loss of Jesse Bates can't be understated. So they're getting better there.
Your pick is,
it's alive.
It's very much
it's
alive. It's not, like, it's not like it's crawling out of the coffin either. It's very much alive.
I had Dallas coming out of the NFC, which is still alive.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling that one, but.
Let's jump to the bottom of your power rankings. No surprise here, the Panthers sitting at 32nd. Frank Reich said he is going to be giving up play calling duties. Curious your thoughts on that, Pete, but also your expectations for this team and how far below they have fallen.
A lot. They're a lot behind where I thought they would be. A, Bryce Young has struggled. B, the offensive line has struggled. They don't have really much speed down the field. But it's the defense that has surprised me as much as anything. I thought that defense was going to be pretty good, and it hasn't been. You figure you have a rookie quarterback, you can run the ball, play some defense, he'll make some throws down the field, and it hasn't been close to that. They're a major disappointment. And when coaches start doing things like that, that's a major red flag in my book. It's a panic situation.
Yeah, it's like, you know, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? We've got different lifelines. Well, this is your 50-50, okay? You fire yourself as the offensive coordinator. You then allow Thomas Brown, their named offensive coordinator, to call plays as a lifeline. Like, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to survive as a head coach. And I think maybe David Tepper is starting to lose some patience with all this. I'm with you, though. 2 things stand out. Last year, if you look at them when they became more competitive, they ran the football, they played good defense. The difference is this year, they have no deep threat. So if you watch the tape, these safeties are playing low. No one feels threatened. Thielen's basically carrying their entire passing game. That's all Bryce Young has to go to. And so maybe Thomas Brown will be able to, you know, change up some things, but they need help on the outside. They've got to
He's not playing
Bryce
well
Young
either,
more.
though.
He's not, but to your point, the offensive line has not been good either.
No,
that's
terrible.
tough for a rookie.
It's hard for a rookie to go into that situation, but he hasn't played well either. You going to call me for your lifeline when you get on?
No. It'd be hassle. I'm going to call either of you two. It'd be hassle.
What are you talking about?
Right.
Okay, first of all, between Pete and I, we would give you the right answer way over that guy.
What are you talking about?
The problem, you be my phone a friend, and you just talk.
Yeah, you'd have no time.
Yeah, I'd go to Chris. Chris would
Come
give me
from
a
the
direct
guy where,
answer.
like, we get on air and you have to talk for 2 minutes straight before we can get to our first topic. Timing y'all over here.
Pete Prisco's Power Rankings can be seen at CBSSports.com, and a bunch of football can be seen on CBS this weekend. Couple of the early games, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Bills at Pats, Browns at Colts. The late window features the Chargers and the Chiefs.